Good morning. Happy Friday. So, if you hear the theme from Jaws or the theme from Rocky, what type of response do you get? For those of you who remember the movie Jaws, or Star Wars, or any of those types of things, or the music for Monday Night Football, or the music for the NCAA tournament, or what happens if you see the replay of the last second shot of Christian Leitner in the NCAA tournament? What about all of those things? All of those things are anchors. And an anchor is a type of neurolinguistic programming. If you hear a certain song, it'll create, in certain situations, a response. And all that means is, if while you are in a significant emotional state, whether it be a positive emotional state or a negative emotional state, whichever way, if you're in a significant emotional state and something unique happens, then that will create an anchor. And what that means is, every time that you see that thing, you'll have this response. That's essentially what PTSD is. So if you were in a car wreck, you may have a response every time you see a car like the one you were in the wreck with, or the truck like you were in the one with the wreck with. PTSD originally was called shell shock, and then it was called battle fatigue. If we add syllables, somehow we think that kind of lessens the blow. And so somebody who'd been in war, if they heard a loud noise, or if they heard rain, if they were in Vietnam, then they have a response to that. Well, that's simply an anchor. All that is an anchor. And there's positive anchors and negative anchors, and they're happening all the time. You're being anchored all the time. And if you want to know how to anchor, watch a commercial. In particular, watch a beer commercial. And next time you watch a beer commercial, watch it not as a consumer, but watch it as a student, and ask yourself, why are they doing what they're doing? Because I can tell you that when you look at advertisers on a national level, everything they do it for a reason. It's not by accident that they do things the way that they do. And if you look at a commercial, what does it have to do with the beer? It doesn't have anything to do with the beer. I mean, Coors Light, there's all these beautiful people running around, and they use a ton of sex, and they use a ton of youth, and they're playing volleyball, and they're skiing, and they're doing all these things, and there's hot girls with big boobs, and their big boobs are hanging out, and they show you all this, and it goes really fast, and they're laughing, and there's music, and then they show you the product, and then laughing and music, and then they show you the product, and then they even anchor the product in a way, hot girl, hot girl, hot girl, silver bullet. Yes, very subtle. Thank you, Coors Light. But that is anchoring. All that is anchoring. If some of you are old enough to remember that they used to do a thing during movies where they would flash the word Coca-Cola 3 times, but it was so fast that you didn't see it. And they figured out that was a subliminal anchor. It caused you to actually go purchase more Coca-Cola. Your subconscious mind picked that up, and you would go purchase the product. And then they made it illegal to do that. But that was anchoring. And after they did that, people who make movies learned, and they use that. So like if you watch Halloween, John Carpenter put Michael Myers' face in virtually every scene. It's just that your conscious mind doesn't pick it up. You only pick up part of the time when he did that, but he did it most of the time. Most of those scenes have Michael Myers' face somewhere, so that your other than conscious mind will pick that up, and it will anchor you. So how is this helpful? Well, number one, you can use anchors that you currently have. You have music, and you have things that anchor you, that make you feel better. And so use them. If there's music that reminds you of a specific time, or if there's a food that reminds you of a specific time, or a smell, that's why we bake pies in a house. They'll tell you, bake cookies or bake an apple pie. The hope is that when you were a kid, somebody made cookies or apple pie, and it was a positive experience. And so you'll smell the cookies or the apple pie and you'll go back to that experience. Now, if instead of that experience, your grandmother made cookies and then beat on you, when you think of the cookies, you're going to think of the beating, and so it's not going to work. So but that's how an anchor happens, and that's why we do that stuff. So number one, know that you're being anchored all the time, constantly being anchored by advertisers. You're constantly being anchored just by, if you're in an emotional state and something happens, then you're going to be anchored. So secondly, use them. When you have a positive anchor, then utilize it. If you've got a song or if you've got something that is really helpful for you that makes you feel good, go ahead and use it. Now, if you have a negative anchor, also realize that that exists. So if a certain situation causes you to have anxiety, or it causes you to, just feel bad, or if you had an event in your past that you still relive and feel badly about, those are nothing but anchors. That's just an anchor that you're then replaying. And you can collapse an anchor. You can get rid of an anchor. And we'll do this technique tomorrow. I'll do a couple of techniques about how to get rid of an anchor. But think about it this way. Think about the movie A Christmas Carol. And that's a great movie to show you neurolinguistic programming, because you had a man that had a bunch of beliefs and he didn't want to change, Ebenezer Scrooge. And then 3 neurolinguistic programmers came and visited him during the night and got him to change like that. And by the way, that's how quickly change can happen. It happens in a heartbeat when it does happen. How did they do it? They showed him the pain of his current beliefs in the past, in the present, and in the future. So when you want to change something, the first thing that you have to do is you have to get leverage. And the way that you get leverage is you think about, what does this cost you in the past? What does it cost you in the present? And what is it going to cost you in the future? And you don't think about it intellectually. You got to feel it. You got to feel it in your heart. You got to feel it in your gut. And when you do that, that's when you'll start to change. That's when you'll start to actually decide that you're going to do something differently than what you've been doing. And especially the pain in the future. I mean, the reason people don't quit smoking isn't because they don't intellectually know it's horrible for them. It's because they look at the short-term pain. They look at, what am I going to experience now, not what am I going to experience in the future. If they focus on what's going to happen in the future, then they'll feel differently. And usually what really does it is other people. Typically, as humans, we'll do more for others than we will do for ourselves. That's not 100% true, but that's almost 100% true. So when people quit smoking or they quit drinking, mostly the leverage for them is actually the people that they love. It's not themselves. A lot of times, in fact, they have such little self-esteem and self-confidence that they don't really care what happens to them, but they do care what happens to the people that they love, especially kids. So a great way to get leverage on somebody is their kids. What's going to happen if you don't change? And so if you have an anchor that you keep reliving, something that you did or something that happened, and, let's say you have a bad relationship with a parent, or and every time you're around that person, you relive these events, or an ex or something. One of the things that can happen to spouses is if they get into a bad spot and they fight all the time, then when they see each other, that's what, those anchors come in. So you got to create new anchors. So before you get rid of something, you got to get leverage. What's the pain now? What's the pain in the past? What's the pain in the present? What's the pain in the future? What is it going to cost you? And then you feel that. And if you feel that, now you're going to start to want to change, and you're going to want to change that anchor. And by the way, if you feel that pain enough, the change in the new anchor will actually happen automatically, and you won't need to do anything else. But tomorrow we'll talk about exactly what you do in order to change that. But for now, I want you to know that anchors are out there. They're incredibly important because it's happening to us constantly. You are constantly being anchored. So rather than being at the effect, let's be at the cause. Let's anchor ourselves. So at the peak, do something unique. So if you want to create an anchor, put yourself in a peak state, think of something that's great, jump around, feel amazing, and then make your fist and say yes. That's an anchor. That's why we do all that rah-rah stuff at Tony Robbins events. It's not just to jump around and be crazy. It's because we're creating positive anchors so that we can use them forever. We have a thing that we do after UPW where we make a power move. And we do that to create an anchor to go walk on fire, but then you're also creating an anchor that you use for the rest of your life. So, when I'm working with somebody who's a Tony person as a coach and as a trainer, I can say, make your move, and they'll do that, and that anchor immediately changes their state and puts them in a different state. And then from that different state, they're going to create a different result, always. But the other thing that they can do is we can get rid of an old anchor by creating a new super positive anchor. So for today, think about the anchors that you have. Think about the good ones and the bad ones. And then just pay attention as you're going through your day at the anchors that happen. And it can be, from something you see on TV to a commercial to a song to, something you see as you're driving. But you're going to notice that there's a lot of anchors. And notice how well advertisers do this. They do this on purpose, and they're very, very good at it in order to sell their product. They anchor you to their product. Beer manufacturers are the best. They do it better than anybody else. Watch a beer commercial and pay attention to what it's really about, as opposed to their product. They create a feeling. That's what they're selling, is a feeling. Disney is selling a feeling. That's all that Disney sells, is a feeling. And they're awesome at anchoring you to that feeling and that product. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. We're all in this together. Let's take care of each other.